Hello everyone and welcome to my channel.
Many coincidences are just that and nothing more. This is true almost across the board, and while the coincidence at hand might be amusing, it isn't significant in any way and certainly not the potent of a curse. However, there are some creepy coincidences out there that are just plain weird. Simultaneous or predictive events that seem far too similar to be the product of mere chance. Is it just happenstance, or is there something else at play? This list details such eerie coincidences, and some that seriously freak you out. 10 coincidences that are just impossible to believe. Number 10. Twins killed by the same taxi with almost too many similarities. This incident occurred in 1974 in Bermuda. One of the twins died when a taxi cab struck his moped scooter. 1 year later, the other twin, riding the exact same scooter, was struck and killed by the exact same taxi driven by the exact same driver who was driving the exact same passenger as in the death of the first twin. The odds of this happening might seem astronomical, leading you to believe the story was made up, but apparently this really happened. Number 9. Edgar Allan Poes' macabre tale comes true. Edgar Allan Poe's only novel, the narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket, published in 1838, features a scene in which the crew of a ship, stranded in the ocean and starving, draws straws to see who will be sacrificed for the others' bellies. The loser of the draw is one Richard Parker. 46 years later, in 1884, a few crew members aboard the ship Mignonette escaped a deadly storm just before their boat sank. Stranded without food, the men decided to sacrifice a 17-year-old crew member after the boy attempted to drink salt water to quench his thirst, causing his health to rapidly decline. They could not wait for him to die and risk his body becoming infected in the process of death, so the boy was stabbed to death and devoured. The boy's name? Richard Parker. Number 8. Separated identical twins live nearly identical lives. Two identical twin boys were separated at 3 weeks old and adopted separate families in Ohio in 1940. 39 years later, in 1979, the brothers were reunited. They'd both been named James by their adoptive parents, and they both went by Jim. Both became law enforcement agents as adults. Both married women named Linda, divorced and then remarried women named Betty. Both had dogs named Toy at different times in their lives, and both had sons named James Allen or Alan. Number 7. Author predicts Titanic sinking. Morgan Robertson published his novella Futility in 1898. In it, a massive commercial cruise liner named Titan collides with an iceberg in the Atlantic Ocean, causing the ship to sink. 14 years later, nearly the exact same thing happened in real life with the Titanic disaster. Not only were the ships' names similar, Robertson's boat was nearly identical to the Titanic. AP writer Michelle McKeag notes, the ships are approximately the same size, with the Titanic being only 25 meters longer than the Titan's 243. Both were capable of maximum speeds over 20 knots, and both carried only the bare legal minimum number of lifeboats for the thousands of passengers on board. Both vessels were hailed as unsinkable, and both proved all too vulnerable after striking icebergs in mid-April. Number 6. The Lincoln and Kennedy's assassinations. There have only been 4 United States presidents to have been assassinated while in office, the first being Abraham Lincoln and the last John F. Kennedy. The similarities surrounding the men both in life and in death are rather surprising. Focusing on the assassinations alone, the coincidences are uncanny, writes Valerie Quillen of History News Network. Both presidents were shot in the back of the head on Friday before a major holiday, while seated beside their wives, neither of whom were injured. Both were in the presence of another couple, and in each case that man was also wounded by the assassin. After both assassinations, there were loud and insistent claims that the fatal shot must have come from a different direction. Both were succeeded by vice presidents named Johnson, Andrew, born in 1808, and Lyndon in 1908, both of whom had 13 letters in their names and 2 daughters. Both assassins have 15 letters in their names. Booth shot Lincoln in a theater and fled to a warehouse. Oswald shot Kennedy from a warehouse and fled to a theater. Both assassins were in their turn assassinated by shooters who used a Colt revolver and fired only one fatal shot. Number 5. Twins die on the same day, in the same manner. In early 2002, a pair of 70-year-old twins died on the same day in Rahe, Finland. Not so strange, right? Wrong. The men both were struck and killed by trucks while riding their bicycles on the exact same stretch of road about a mile apart from each other within a span of 2 hours. Police did not suspect premeditated suicide, as the twin to die last had no knowledge of his brother's death before setting out on his bike. Their near simultaneous and eerily mirrored deaths was simply a freak accident. Number 4. The miraculous exploding church incident. A church exploded in the small Nebraska town of Beatrice on March 1, 1950 at around 7:25 p.m. As choir practice always began around 7:20 p.m., all 15 choir members perished in the blast, right? Nope. No one died. No one even incurred any injuries. How? All 15 members were running late for their own personal reasons. They were nowhere near the church when it exploded. What could have been an utter tragedy for Beatrice ended up being relatively fine, save for the loss of the town church. Number 3. The falling baby and the passing man. In Detroit sometime in 1930s, a young, if incredibly careless mother must have been eternally grateful to a man named Joseph Figlock. As Figlock was walking down the street, the mother's baby fell from a high window onto Figlock. The baby's fall was broken and both man and baby were unharmed. A stroke of luck on its own. But a year later, the very same baby fell from the very same window onto poor, unsuspecting Joseph Figlock as he was again passing underneath. And again, they both survived the event. Number 2. The Umberto Doubles. On July 28, 1900, King Umberto I of Italy went to a small restaurant in Monza for dinner. When the owner, who was also named Umberto, took the king's order, they noticed they were virtual doubles. The men talked and discovered many more similarities. Both men were born on March 14, 1844, in the same town of Turin. Both married women named Margherita on the same day. The restaurant opened on the same day King Umberto was crowned King of Italy. The next day, King Umberto learned that the restaurateur had died earlier that day in a mysterious shooting. As the king expressed his regret, an anarchist in the group assassinated him. Number 1. Hugh Williams. In 1660, a ship sank in the Doubles Straits. The only survivor was named Hugh Williams. In 1767, a second ship sank in the Doubles Straits. The only survivor was named Hugh Williams. In 1820, a ship capsized on the Thames. The only survivor was named Hugh Williams. In 1940, a ship was destroyed by a German mine. Only 2 men survived, a man and his nephew. Both were named Hugh Williams. Are these mere coincidences, a strong argument for nature over nurture, or something bigger like some unconscious psychic communication? Paulo Coelho once said, "Coincidence is the language of the stars. For something to happen, so many forces have to be put into action."
Hello everyone, my name is Ria. If you liked what you just saw, make sure that subscribe button and the bell icon next to it so that you know when I post a video next. Please like the video and leave your comments below. So until next time.